Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com.
The detailed cases of obligation in supporting Jewish businesses. When is one obligated to make purchases or sales to and from a Jew versus a Gentile, and when is one exempt? So in the previous halacha we discussed the general obligation regarding this matter. We brought a machlekes, if it's an obligation or just good advice, and we concluded that the vast majority of the poskim ruled that it is an absolute obligation to precede business with a Jew versus a Gentile, and that practically this is what should be followed. So now we will clarify the cases in which this mitzvah and obligation applies. Does it apply only by buying and selling, or also to renting? Does it apply to hiring employees? Does it apply to loans? And is there a difference between religious Jews versus non-religious Jews, relatives and non-relatives, poor Jews versus wealthy Jews, etc.? And does it apply if there's differences in price, convenience, or quality between the products? Let's begin regarding renting. Does the obligation to precede a Jew versus a Gentile apply also when you want to rent an item or real estate such as a home, an apartment, long-term rentals, short-term rentals, to a Jew versus a Gentile? So the answer is that it's recorded in the Paiskim, brought in the Machne Chaim and the Chafetz Chaim Sefer of Avas Chesed, that just as one is required to precede a Jew regarding buying and selling, so too regarding renting, that you have to precede to rent to a Jew versus a Goy. Next case regarding hiring employees. Must one precede a Jewish employee to hire him versus a Goy? This too is recorded in the Paiskim. Then included in the above obligation is the obligation to hire Jewish workers, a Jewish employee versus a Gentile. Regarding precedence of loans, this matter in truth is a subject in and of its own, but the halacha is, and this there's complete agreement to, that it is a biblical positive command for one to precede lending money to a Jewish pauper than to lend to a Goy, even if he can make some money off of the ribbis he'll receive from the Goy. Although this is its own subject and deserves its own halacha, many halachic details are learned from this ruling, as we will see in the continued details. An interesting question discussed in the Paiskim is regarding, must one precede a Jew to a Gentile regarding purchases, to purchase from a Jew versus a Goy, if the Goy, the Gentile owner himself has Jewish employees? So when you support this Gentile-owned store, you're actually supporting the salaries of his Jewish employees. And the answer is that in such a case there is indeed no difference, and you can decide to either shop by the Goyish-owned shop with Jewish employees or by the Jewish-owned shop, as either way the money you are paying them will go to help Jews in their livelihood and success. Regarding religious versus non-religious Jews, so many of the poskim record that this entire chiyuv and mitzvah of preceding a Jew versus a Gentile is only applicable by amcha, by a Jew who was with you in Torah and mitzvahs, but a non-from Jew is not included in this biblical requirement, and therefore there's no obligation to precede to purchase from him than to purchase from a Gentile. So if a Jewish-owned store is owned by a Jew who's Mechalel Shabbos B'Farhesia, there is no need to buy from him if you would like to buy from a Goyish-owned store. At the same time, the poskim write that if you have a Jewish-owned store that's owned by a Haimish Yid, a Jew who's frum and Shemer Torah mitzvahs, and another Jewish-owned store who's owned by a Jew that's not Shemer Shabbos B'Farhesia, then you have a mitzvah to precede the religious Jew store rather than to buy from the Jewish store who's not observant. Regarding a poor Jew versus a wealthy Jew, some write that one should precede buying from a Jew who is poor versus buying from a Jew who is rich. And regarding relatives versus non-relatives, the Chafetz Chaim writes that just like one should precede a Jew to a Goy, so too one should precede buying from a Jewish relative versus a non-relative, even though they're both Jewish and frum, as krevecha kaidmin, your relatives come first. And now for the major subject of questions regarding what if there's a difference in price, convenience, or quality between the Jewish and Gentile product. Do the laws of precedence still apply? So this matter is a major debate amongst the Paiskim, with some saying that whenever there's a difference in price, there is no requirement at all to precede buying from a Jew rather than the Gentile, and you can shop for the cheapest available product that you want and not pay attention to who the owner is. However, other poskim rule that you're obligated to precede buying from a Jew even if there's a difference in price and it's going to cost you more to buy from the Jew. Some say this applies even if it's a large sum of a difference in price. Others say it only applies if it's a small sum of a difference in price. Practically, the following is the directive in the above case. Whenever there's a difference in price between the Jewish versus Gentile product for sale. If the Jewish seller who's more expensive is selling it for more than market value, then you're not required to buy it from him for a greater amount, as he should not be selling it for more than the market value. However, if he is selling it for the normal market value, it's a reasonable price, but the Gentile is selling it for less, then if the Jewish seller is considered poor, meaning that he needs the business, then you are to proceed and buy from the Jewish seller even if there's a difference in price, and the Gentile is selling it for cheaper. However, even in such a case, if the difference of price is very great and it'll cause one a great loss, then he's allowed to be lenient and purchase it from the Gentile, even if the above conditions are fulfilled, that he should technically purchase it from the Jew. However, by a slight difference in price, one should always precede buying from the Jew if it's not above market value. The same halacha we stated regarding buying also applies regarding selling. That if a Jewish customer is offering less money than a Gentile, one is to precede selling the item to a Jew versus the Gentile, unless there's a great difference in price, in which case it'll be a great loss for the seller, and he may then sell it to the Gentile. Regarding if a Gentile-owned store is closer by than a Jewish-owned store, so the poskim write that one is still obligated to go to the Jewish-owned store to make the purchase, even though it's less convenient. However, this is only if both stores are within considerable distance, that they will not ruin one's schedule and the like. However, if the Jewish-owned store is far away, then certainly he's not obligated to travel all the way there. Some suggest that the measurement for this is 18 minutes. Regarding if there's a difference in quality between the products of the Jew and the Gentile, then it is permitted for one to purchase whatever quality he desires, even if it means buying from a Gentile versus buying from a Jew. Likewise, regarding buying small products such as a bottle of water or a bottle of Coke, some poskim rule that regarding such small items, the halacha does not apply and you're allowed to go to a Gentile-owned store versus a Jewish-owned store. Regarding this halacha, we'll just mention that one time the Rebbe gave a directive that one should endeavor to travel only on El Al based on this mitzvah, that one is to precede buying and supporting Jewish businesses versus Gentile businesses. So to now summarize this entire halacha, it is a mitzvah, and according to most poskim, an obligation to support Jewish-owned businesses and precede buying from a Jew and selling to a Jew versus a Gentile. And this applies even if it's less convenient to buy from the Jew, even if the Gentile store is closer by, and even if there's a difference in price, so long as the price difference is not so significant and the Jew is not selling it for more than market value for an unreasonable price, and the Jew is not considered wealthy and is indeed in need of your business. However, if the Jewish seller is not frum, he's not Shema Shabbos b'far Hesya, then there's no obligation to proceed buying from him than to buy from a Gentile. So to summarize in conclusion, one is to proceed purchasing items from a Jew versus a Gentile unless any of the following cases apply: the Jewish seller is not religious, or the Gentile product is being sold for much cheaper, buying from the Jew would be considered for oneself a great loss, or the Jewish seller is wealthy and the Gentile is selling it for cheaper. Merit Hashem, may the keeping of these halachas of Avos Yisrael, supporting Jewish businesses, as is recorded as a mitzvah in the Torah, this will help the Eibush to bring Parnasa B'Shefa to all Yidden of all places.
Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com. Our free services of making Torah knowledge available to the public depends on donors like you. Please help us continue our work through making even a small contribution at Shulchanaruchharav.com under the Daily Halacha Dedication section or in the subscription page. Also, check out our online courses and many sefarim available for purchase that will both enhance your Torah knowledge and help support our work.